The Servants and the House. At one time there was a wise and kindly man who owned a large house. In the course of his life, he often had to go away for long periods. When he did this, he left the house in the charge of his servants. One of the characteristics of these people was that they were very forgetful. They forgot, from time to time, why they were in the house, so they carried out their tasks repetitiously. At other times they thought that they should be doing things in a different way from the way in which their duties had been assigned to them. This was because they had lost track of their functions. Once, when the master was away for a long time, a new generation of servants arose, who thought that they actually owned the house. Since they were limited by their immediate world, however, they thought that they were in a paradoxical situation. For instance, sometimes they wanted to sell the house and could find no buyers, because they did not know how to go about it. At other times, people came inquiring about buying the house and asking to see the title deeds. But since they did not know anything about deeds, the servants thought that these people were mad and not genuine buyers at all. Paradox was also evidenced by the fact that supplies for the house kept mysteriously appearing, and this provision did not fit in with the assumption that the inmates were responsible for the whole house. Instructions for running the house had been left, for purposes of refreshing the memory, in the master's apartments. But after the first generation, so sacrosanct had these apartments become that nobody was allowed to enter them, and they became considered to be an impenetrable mystery. Some, indeed, held that there was no such apartment at all, although they could see its doors. These doors, however, they explained as something else, a part of the decoration of the walls. Such was the condition of the staff of a house, which neither took over the house, nor stayed faithful to their original commitment. Tradition states that this tale was much used by the Sufi martyr al-Hallaj, who was executed in 922 for allegedly saying, "I am the truth." Hallaj left behind a remarkable collection of mystical poetry. At great risk to themselves, many Sufis during the last 1,000 years have steadfastly maintained that Hallaj was a high illuminate. The Generous Man. There was a rich and generous man of Bokhara. Because he had such high rank in the invisible hierarchy, he was known as the President of the world. He made one condition about his bounty. Every day he gave gold to one category of people, the sick, widows, and so on, but nothing was to be given to anyone who opened his mouth. Not all could keep silent. One day it was the turn of lawyers to receive their share of the bounty. One of them could not restrain himself and made the most complete appeal possible. Nothing was given to him. This was not the end, however, of his efforts. The following day invalids were being helped, so he pretended that his limbs had been broken. But the president knew him, and he obtained nothing. The very next day he posed in another guise, covering his face, with the people of another category. He was again recognized and sent away. Again and again he tried, even disguising himself as a woman, again without result. Finally this lawyer found an undertaker and told him to wrap him in a shroud. When the president passes by, he will perhaps assume that this is a corpse. He may throw down some money towards my burial, and I will give you a share of it. This was done. A gold piece from the hand of the president fell upon the shroud. The beggar seized it out of fear that the undertaker would get it first. Then he spoke to the benefactor. "You denied me your bounty. Note how I have gained it." "Nothing can you have from me," replied the generous man, "until you die. This is the meaning of the cryptic phrase, 'Man must die before he dies.' The gift comes after death, and not before. And this death even is not possible without help. This tale from the 4th book of the Mathnavi of Rumi explains itself. Dervishes use it to emphasize that while certain endowments can be snatched by the wily, the capacity, gold, which is willingly extracted from a teacher like the generous man of Bokhara, has a power beyond that of its appearance. This is the elusive quality of barakah. The host and the guests. The teacher is like the host in his house. His guests are those who are trying to study the way. These are people who have never been in a house before, and they only have vague ideas as to what a house may be like. It exists, nevertheless. When the guests enter the house and see the place set aside for sitting in, they ask, "What is this?" They are told, "This is a place where we sit." So they sit down on chairs, only dimly conscious of the function of the chair. The host entertains them, but they continue to ask questions, some irrelevant. Like a good host, he does not blame them for this. They want to know, for instance, where and when they are going to eat. They do not know that nobody is alone, and that at that very moment there are other people who are cooking the food, and that there is another room in which they will sit down and have a meal. Because they cannot see the meal or its preparation, they are confused, perhaps doubtful, sometimes ill at ease. The good host, knowing the problems of the guests, has to put them at their ease, so that they will be able to enjoy the food when it comes. At the outset, they are in no state to approach the food. Some of the guests are quicker to understand and relate one thing about the house to another thing. These are the ones who can communicate to their slower friends. The host, meanwhile, gives each guest an answer in accordance with his capacity to perceive the unity and function of the house. It is not enough for a house to exist, for it to be made ready to receive guests, for the host to be present. Someone must actively exercise the function of host in order that the strangers who are the guests, and for whom the host has responsibility, may become accustomed to the house. At the beginning, many of them are not aware that they are guests, or rather exactly what guesthood means, what they can bring to it, what it can give them. The experienced guest, who has learnt about houses and hospitality, is at length at ease in his guesthood, and he is then in a position to understand more about houses and about many facets of living in them. While he is still trying to understand what a house is, or trying to remember rules of etiquette, his attention is too much taken up by these factors to be able to observe, say, the beauty, value, or function of the furniture. This venerated parable, quoted from the teachings of the 14th century Nizamuddin Aulia, is supposed to hold good on several levels. It refers to the ordering of the various functions of the mind in order that a certain higher perception may be able to develop. The story is also intended to indicate, in a manner which can easily be held in the mind, the necessities of a Sufi group, and the interrelation between the various members, and how each can complement the others. Much emphasis is placed by dervishes on the need for a certain arrangement of factors before the individual can benefit from the efforts of the group. This is one of the Sufi tales which carry an embargo. It may not be studied in isolation, and wherever it is written down, the student must read the following story immediately after this one. It does not appear in any classic, but may be found in those collections of notes which dervishes carry with them, and refer to from time to time, as part of a planned course of study. This version is taken from a manuscript which states that it was given out by Master Amir Syed Kulal Sukhari, who died in 1371. The King's Son. Once, in a country where all men were like kings, there lived a family who were in every way content, and whose surroundings were such that the human tongue cannot describe them in terms of anything which is known to man today. This country of Shark seemed satisfactory to the young Prince Dart, until one day his parents told him, "Dearest son of ours, it is the necessary custom of our land for each royal prince, when he attains a certain age, to go forth on a trial. This is in order to fit himself for kingship, and so that both in repute and in fact he should have achieved, by watchfulness and effort, a degree of manliness not to be attained in any other way. Thus it has been ordained from the beginning, and thus it will be until the end." Prince Dart therefore prepared himself for his journey, and his family provided him with such sustenance they could, a special food which would nourish him during an exile, but which was of small compass, though of illimitable quantity. They also gave him certain other resources, which it is not possible to mention, to guard him, if they were properly used. He had to travel to a certain country, called Mizr, and he had to go in disguise. He was therefore given guides for the journey, and clothes befitting his new condition, clothes which scarcely resembled one royal-born. His task was to bring back from Mizr a certain jewel, which was guarded by a fearsome monster. When his guides departed, Dart was alone, but before long he came across someone else who was on a similar mission, and together they were able to keep alive the memory of their sublime origins. But because of the air and the food of the country, a kind of sleep soon descended upon the pair, and Dart forgot his mission. For years he lived in Mizr, earning his keep and following a humble vocation, seemingly unaware of what he should be doing. By a means which was familiar to them but unknown to other people, the inhabitants of Shark came to know of the dire situation of Dart, and they worked together in such a way as they could, to help to release him and to enable him to persevere with his mission. A message was sent by a strange means to the princeling, saying, "Awake, for you are the son of a king, sent on a special undertaking, and to us you must return." This message awoke the prince, who found his way to the monster, and by the use of special sounds, caused it to fall into a sleep, and he seized the priceless gem which it had been guarding. Now Dart followed the sounds of the message which had woken him, changed his garb for that of his own land, and retraced his steps, guided by the sound, to the country of Shark. In a surprisingly short time, Dart again beheld his ancient robes and the country of his fathers, and reached his home. This time, however, through his experiences, he was able to see that it was somewhere of greater splendor than ever before, a safety to him. And he realized that it was the place commemorated vaguely by the people of Mizr as Salamat, which they took to be the word for submission, but which he now realized meant peace. Very much the same theme is found in the Hymn of the Soul in the New Testament Apocrypha. The philosopher Ibn Sina, died 1038, who is known as Avicenna in the West, has dealt with the same material in his Allegory of the Soul's Exile, or Poem of the Soul. This version appears in a wandering dervish's transcription from a recital supposedly given by Amir Sultan, Sheikh of Bukhara, who taught in Istanbul and died in 1429. Appendix. Authors and teachers referred to in this book in chronological order. The dates are expressed in terms of the Christian era, and the entries refer to the date of death. 7th century. 634. Abu Bakr el-Siddiq, companion of the Prophet and first Caliph. 657. Hadrat Uwais al-Khani, guide of the Uwaisi Sufis, contemporary of Muhammad. 661. Hadrat Ali, son of Abu Talib, son-in-law, companion and fourth Caliph of Muhammad. 680. Sayyid Hussein, son of Hadrat Ali, martyred. 8th century. 728. Hassan of Basra, born Medina, orator and Sufi ancient. 790. Jabir, son of Al-Hayyan, disciple of Jafar, Geber the alchemist in European literature. 9th century. Fudail, son of Ayad, the highwayman, died Mecca. Taught Caliph Harun al-Rashid. 828. Abu al-Atahir, founder of the Revelers, poet. 860. Dunnun the Egyptian, lord of the fish, hieroglyphicist. 875. Bayazid, Abu Yazid, of Bistam, leader of the learned. 885. Abu Ali of Sind, teacher of Bayazid, lacked formal knowledge of Islam, but communicated Sufi experiences. 10th century. 922. Mansur el-Hallaj, the wool carder, executed for apostasy. 934. Abu Ali Muhammad, son of Al-Qasim el-Rudbari. Circa 965. El-Mutanabi, classical Arabic poet. Abu Ishaq Chishti of Turkestan. 11th century. 1038. Ibn Sina, Avicenna to the west, philosopher. 1072. Ali al-Hujwiri, saint and author of The Revelation of the Veiled. 1078. Khaja, master, Ali Famadi of the Naqshbandi chain of succession. 1089. Khaja Abdullah Ansar, classical poet and mystic, buried at Gazagar. 12th century. 1111. Imam al-Ghazali of Persia, the proof of Islam, teacher and author of classics in Arabic and Persian. 1140. Yusuf Hamadani. 1150. Hakim Sanai of Ghazna, Afghanistan, author of many classics, including The Walled Garden of Truth, 1130. 1166. Hadrat Abdul Qadir of Gilan, founder of the Qadiri order. 1174. Ahmed el-Rifai, founder of the Rifai or Howling Dervishes. 13th century. 1221. Najmuddin Kubra, the greatest scourge in debate, fell in battle. 1230. Sheikh Fariduddin Attar, inspirer of Rumi, author of Sufi classics. 1234. Sheikh Shahabuddin Omar Surawadi, disciple of Abdul Qadir of Gilan, author of The Gifts of Deep Knowledge. 1273. Maulana Jalaluddin Rumi of Balkh, Afghanistan, taught in Rum, Iconium, author of Mathnavi, etc. 1276. Sheikh Ahmed el-Badavi founded the Badavi order in Egypt. 1294. Majnun Qalandar, the mad wanderer, said to have taught only by telepathy. Yusuf Qalandar of Andalusia, mentor of the wandering Dervishes. 14th century. 1306. Khaja Ali Ramitani of Turkestan, teacher of the Khajagan, or masters. 1311. Timur Aga of Turkey. 1325. Nizamuddin Aulia, Great Saint of India. 1354. Khaja Muhammad Baba Samasi, teacher of the Khajagan. 1371. Khaja Amir Syed Kulal Sakari, teacher of the Naqshbandi chain. 1382. Bakhtiar Baba. Circa 1389. Maulana Hadrat Bahuddin Naqshband, the Shah, teacher of the Naqshbandi or Khajagan. 1397. Hadrat Omar Kilwati, founder of the Kilwati or Recluse order. 15th century. 1429. Amir Sultan, Sheikh of Bukhara. 1492. Hakim Nuruddin Abdur Rahman Jami, classical Persian author. 16th century. 1563. Shah Muhammad Gwath Shatari founded Shatari or Rapid order. Sikandar Shah, Qadiri. 1575. Sheikh Hamza Malamati Maktul, executed. 17th century. 1605. Amil Baba, the worker. 1615. Sheikh Ahmed Faruqi of Afghanistan. 1632. Sheikh Pir Shatari. 1670. Yunus, son of Adam. 18th century. 1719. Murad Shami. 1750. Sheikh Muhammad Jamaluddin of Adrianople, founded Jamaliya order. 1765. Salim Abdali. 1790. Piri Dosara, Samuni. 19th century. 1813. Muhammad Asghar. 1818. Syed Sabir Ali Shah. 1832. Sheikh Qalandar Shah Surawadi. 1846. Sheikh Nasir Eldin Shah. 1854. Syed Shah Qadiri. 1860. Syed Imam Ali Shah. 1864. Syed Muhammad Shah Janfashan Khan. 1870. Awad Afifi the Tunisian. 1881. Syed Ghaus Ali Shah. 20th century. 1900. Dervish Bahuddin Ankabut of Bukhara. 1962. Sufi Abdul Hamid Khan of Kandahar. 1965. Sheikh Daud of Kandahar. A request. If you enjoyed this book, please review it on Amazon and Goodreads. Reviews are an author's best friend. To stay in touch with news on forthcoming editions of Idris Shah works, please sign up for the mailing list at bit.ly/ISF list. And to follow him on social media, please go to any of the following links: twitter.com/Idris Shah, facebook.com/Idris Shah, youtube.com/Idris Shah 999, pinterest.com/Idris Shah, bit.ly/IS Goodreads, idrisshah.tumblr.com, or the main website at idrisshahfoundation.org. That was Tales of the Dervishes by Idris Shah. First published 1967, published in this edition 2016. This text is copyright the estate of Idris Shah, all rights reserved. This audiobook has been narrated by David Ault.